Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 715 in Fire Hose Week as we give you as much content as possible about the Duke Blue Devils as they prepare to face the Houston Cougars at the Final Four this week. Jason Evans with you. That's my friend Donald Wine. Donald, it is, for folks who don't know, they're probably listening to this on Thursday, but it is Wednesday afternoon for us. You are about to take off and head to San Antonio tomorrow, right?
I am, yes. I'll be leaving on Thursday morning, heading down there. I don't think there's going to be a meetup on Saturday. There is just way too much going on. And honestly, I haven't been able to find anything that will be open, that won't be full of people beforehand. So I'll be at the Iron Dukes party. I paid a little extra for that since, YOLO. But if there was something to worry about, then maybe there'll be something more about. But I know our guest is hoping that Saturday is good up until the game.
Yeah. So at this point, you've heard from us. We've spoken to a couple folks who are Dukies. Now it's time for us to turn our attention to the other side. We're going to get the view from the enemy, so to speak. We're joined by Jeremy Branham. He is the radio voice of the Houston Cougars. He calls the play-by-play for their games. Jeremy, how long you been doing this, man?
This is my ninth year for the men. I broadcasted 10 years with the women at U of H prior to that. So been at U of H for a while.
And so you've been there for the Kelvin Sampson era. It's
Most of it. Yeah, I joined the program his third year. So most of his tenure, yeah.
I mean, Houston was a program growing up, superpower program, and then fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But it has really been a special few years for you guys, hasn't it?
Yeah. I like to divide up the program history really to three different eras. The good eras. You look at the late 60s with Elvin Hayes and Guy V. Lewis. They went to two Final Fours. That would be your first golden age of Cougar basketball history. You touched on Phi Slamma Jamma there in the mid 80s. That would be the second great era of Houston Cougar basketball history. And then the most recent one's the current one with Kelvin Sampson. Now two Final Fours in his tenure. So I think three different eras. But you're right. After Phi Slamma Jamma, it dropped off. It was rough. Fan base was non-existent. The facilities were terrible. No one really cared about Houston Cougar basketball.
I saw a video, and you've put out a couple over the past couple days, kind of harking back to Kelvin Sampson's first days on campus, where he's literally going to students and saying, "Hey, we have a basketball team. Come out and support us. You won't, our job is to make you not regret that decision." And now you have a full crowd every single time. Tell me how that has been. How has it been to have a front row seat to I guess the building back up of such a powerhouse
Yeah,
program?
for me, it's a blessing. I love what I do. To have a front row seat to this is unbelievable. Very, very fortunate. And I've been a lifelong Houstonian and a lifelong Houston fan. My uncle Barney would take me to Houston games whenever I was younger. I remember seeing Houston Cougar football games at the Astrodome. I remember going to a lot of dingy games at Hofheinz Pavilion with a couple of hundred people and seeing the Cougars get blown out. So I've lived in Houston my whole life. I'm a Houstonian. I'm a Houston sports fan through and through. So seeing it is even extra rewarding, right? If I was hired by some random university where I didn't have those roots and that foundation, maybe I wouldn't appreciate it as much. But this has been a lot of fun to watch, and then the way that they play too, their style makes you proud to be a Houston alum. It makes you proud of what they represent and what they symbolize because they're gritty. They're a lunch pail team. They're blue collar, so that makes you proud with how they play each and every game and every minute of every game to be a Houston alum.
So one of the things I've said to a couple of different people when talking about this Final Four, we experience this as Duke fans, and everyone I know is like, "This is our year. This is a historically great Duke team. It is a special combination of freshmen who are just performing out of this world, combined with some experienced guys. It's like the magic. Everyone's like, oh, it's magic. We've got this, legendary player. But I keep on saying, like, for Houston, you guys have to feel like this is your year. For Florida, I'm sure it's been 15 years since Florida was really, really relevant on the national stage the way they are this year. For Auburn, They've years in the make. So for all these teams, give me the Houston perspective on it's this year or my God, is it ever going to happen?
Yeah, I think that this year's Final Four is just four powerhouse heavyweights, and then they all have a reason why they can or should be national champions. And I think that even some of the computer analytics have called this one of the strongest Final Fours in however many years, and I believe it.
Mhm.
We saw
The analytics would, I mean, the analytics say all four of these teams are like a top eight of the
yeah,
past 30 years. It's definitely the
yeah.
best Final Four ever.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't get into the whole "this is our year" thing. Sorry to not answer the question. I'll get to it, I guess. But I look at the tournament as such a crapshoot, right? Yes, you have to be really good, but you also have to be really lucky along the way. If Houston lost in the second round against Gonzaga, do I think this year's team was a disappointment? Absolutely not. No way. 19 Big 12 wins, the most that's ever been won in a Big 12 conference in history. They set a record for the most consecutive road wins in Big 12 play. So I look at the tournament. I know a lot of people look at it differently. Most people look at it differently, where the tournament defines a team's season. I don't really look at it that way. To me, it's kind of an added bonus. It's more of a cherry on top. Could it pass, previous teams in years past? Houston has had two teams that have reached the national championship game. Like, could you pass that team as who went the furthest in the NCAA tournament? Sure, but it's still a historical season, no matter what happened in the NCAA tournament. Can you add a little bit extra bonus to a historical season? Sure, you absolutely can. Houston also has very high promise going forward. Like, they have the number 2 recruiting class behind Duke going into next season. So, like, more talent is even on the way here. And I have had some Houston fans that have come up to me like, if we don't do it this year, I'm not sure we're ever going to do it. And I'm like, they're kind of always good. Like, Houston's been really good for a long time. I've gotten to the point where Kelvin Sampson's going to figure out to have a way to have a really good team. So if it's not this year, I think they have a shot next year. And if it's not next year, I think they have a shot the year after that. This is a very good team, though. Top defense in the country, according to some metrics. Their offensive versatility, the way they shoot the 3 ball. I mean, they're capable. They're capable, but if they don't get it done, do I think it's their last chance, their last hurrah? No. I think they got a shot next year. So I think I'm a little different on how I view that, but I really don't subscribe to that notion.
As we shift into, kind of what Houston takes, before I get to that, obviously we had you on last year. We faced each other in the Sweet 16. That was a team that, again, you suffer an injury to Jamal Shed, who was a great player, and you end up losing to us. Does that, and again, Kelvin Sampson has been around the block. He's had a couple of these near misses. Does last year's game kind of add any extra motivation to Saturday? Does with so many guys coming back, which is a rarity right now in college basketball, does that add in any way to the pressure for Saturday?
It doesn't from a team perspective. I think you would be silly to say it doesn't from a fan base perspective. I think the fan base is probably thinking, "Oh, we got another crack at Duke. Let's go." And you understand that because Houston fans are a bit upset with how it ended last year. They felt like they could have won that game, should have won that game. A lot of people would think. So it definitely exists from a fan base perspective. I don't think it exists at all from the bubble, right? From within the team, from within the coaching staff. Their goal is they want to win a national semifinal so they can advance to the last Monday of the college basketball season. I don't think that it's any added emphasis or any added motivation that they're playing Duke again. I think it's more, we're playing a great opponent because every one of these Final Four teams are great opponents, and we really want to get to the final day of the college basketball season. So I think it's more about that than it is going up against Duke. From a team perspective, from a fan base perspective, I do think that does exist.
Absolutely. And I would imagine, fans, and we're the same way. We have a chance to kind of have a revenge tour, so to speak. We like to, hopefully take advantage of it. Okay. You talk actually a little bit about what makes this Houston team go. So I want to ask you this. We obviously know some of the key players, and Jason and I will talk further about it later on this week. But who is the X factor? Who's the guy that may not be the first option, but can be a real difference maker for the Cougars?
See, I think it changes by the game. I think that's part of the strength of Houston this year is that they're versatile. So it kind of depends on the matchups. Who do they think they can attack on the defensive end? And then they have options too offensively to where it's not even necessarily trying to use a certain player to pick on another defender, run some action, some pick and roll stuff to try to get them matched up on that defender. They have guys that can score in that starting lineup, even off the bench. But 4 of the 5 starters on this Cougar team has had games where they've scored 20 points. Jawan Roberts, who's in the post, depending on how the defense defends them, the Houston Cougars are more than happy to go into the post with Jawan Roberts. Emmanuel Sharp was the Big 12 tournament most outstanding player, was the Midwest Regional Final tournament MVP as well. He's a guy who can get you 20, really good shooter. LJ Cryer is the leading scorer on Houston, and he's a guy who's got a really good shot. He can score you 20. And Milo Juzan has shown you that when he has the right matchup, he can score 20. They've all had games this year where they've scored 20 or more points. Tugler's coming along, still raw offensively, but you can see his offense get better. Obviously had that critical pass against Purdue in the Sweet 16 game. And then off the bench, Terrence Arsenault is a guy with NBA potential. It's his first year off an Achilles injury, so he's had some good peaks, but it hasn't been consistent, I think, because he's still just that year removed off the Achilles. You always hear the second year is that critical year for that bounce back coming off of that. But the offensive versatility. So it's hard for me to pinpoint a singular player because it oftentimes depends on who you're playing and which of the opponents that you want to kind of pick on.
Well, Jeremy, you effectively almost teased there what we're going to get to next. We're going to take a quick break, but on the other side, I want to ask you about the style of play. How exactly is it that Houston tries to break teams down offensively, and how does Houston break teams defensively? Because they are really special on that side of the ball. Folks, stick with us. We'll be back in just one moment.
All right, Duke fans, the finals for March Mania are here. And the only thing for sure is it's the last time to bet on college basketball this season. Get in on all the action, expected and unexpected, with DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's right, Donald, with live betting, exclusive content, promos, parlays. DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. And if it's your first time using DraftKings, you can get something special. $5 in bets for $150 in bonus bets instantly. It is a great deal as we close out the season.
Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DUKEBB. That's code DUKEBB for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, Duke fans, Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason and Donald back with you. We are joined again by Jeremy Branham, the voice of, you don't like that. Not the voice of, the radio play-by-play guy for the Houston Cougars. Jeremy, I teased this before the break. Talk to me about the way Houston plays offense based on my very limited, I've watched a bunch of highlights. I've watched, a little bit of some of your games. It feels like this is a team, for the most part, is using their guards to break you down, try and get good shots that way. They take a lot of mid-range jumpers, but that's sort of their offensive attack style, right?
Yeah, they'll do a variety of different things. It's not rare for Houston to start off games by dumping it into the post to see how the defense is going to react to that. If Jawan's going to be just defended one-on-one, Houston will try to take advantage if that's a matchup that they like. They want to see how defenses respond to Houston dumping it into the post. And if they like what they see, they'll continue to do it. So they like to start games like that from time to time, depending on the opponent. But it's a guard driven team. Milos Uzan has been a really good point guard for Houston this year. He's starting to get some NBA draft buzz. Has completely taken ownership of this program and is emerged into one of the leaders of this team as well. He can break you down off the dribble. Good passer too. There was a period earlier this season where he was amongst the leaders in the nation in assist to turnover ratio. Now he started to score it more since then. So I think he's dropped. I think he's still in the top 10, but he's not one of the leaders anymore. They like to run some actions to get LJ Cryer some open looks. Same thing with Emmanuel Sharp. They'll run some actions to give Emmanuel Sharp some open looks. And they're also not scared to run a little isolation. If there's a matchup that they like and they can pick on a certain defender, they're going to figure out a way to get the ball in the hands of whoever they want to get into the hands to, and then figure out a way to get the matchup that they want and spread it out, play a little isolation. So they'll do a bunch of different things. They have a variety of things that they like to get to. But I think the most important thing is you have a bunch of options that can score, and then you have three guys that start, all the three guards that are shooting above 40% three.
All right, let's get to the other side of the ball, because you've got Joseph Tugler, JoJo Tugler, who is, I think I saw he just won a National Defensive Player of the Year award. I know inexplicably to me, he only plays around 21 minutes a game. I don't quite understand that, because he is easily one of the best defenders in the country, one of the best shot blockers for sure in the country, a ferocious rebounder. Is he, and by the way, can guard 1 through 5. Like, stick him on a point guard, he's going to make that point guard's life miserable. Stick him on a center, he's going to make the center's life miserable. Talk to me about the defense, and that has to start with JoJo Tugler.
Yeah, he's an elite defender. He's special on the defensive end, and he's starting to get some draft buzz too. Incredible athlete, 7'5" wingspan, can jump through the roof. He's unbelievable.
Hang on a second. I'm not sure I heard you right. He's 6'8". Did you say he has a 7'5" wingspan?
7'5" wingspan. Yeah.
Are you sure he's human?
I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. He is a specimen. He's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, he just comes out of nowhere a lot of times too. Like he'll be on the perimeter poking a ball away. Next thing you look up, he's at the rim blocking a shot. Like, he covers so much space. He's rangy. He's long. He's fast. He's athletic. He's quick twitch too. His second and third jumps are very quick. I don't know how you do that, but he gets to the ground and that second leap is immediate. So he has a good bounce back even after that first jump. You get him into the air with a ball fake. Well, he can get you back again with that second jump. The minutes you allude to, probably two reasons. The primary thing is probably the foul trouble. He can be prone to foul trouble, which will limit his minutes. And then also, Houston will go small from time to time. Play Arsenault at the 4. Kind of depends on the matchup, game script there. And the other thing is that Javier Francis is really good off the bench. I mean, there's been games this season where Javier Francis is closing games because Kelvin really likes things that he sees on the floor with Javier and Jawan Roberts playing the 4. So it just depends. It depends on game script, how the game's going, the foul trouble. But yeah, he is unique defensively. Kelvin Sampson always has a top defense in the country, and he's probably the best defender we've seen here at Houston under Kelvin Sampson.
Taking a look at this particular matchup, obviously there's a lot of strength on both sides of the ball. If putting aside Cooper Flagg for a second, because obviously he worries a lot of folks that are opponents, but is there someone on Duke's team that you think would be one that kind of worries Houston that they have a good game? Is there one guy that you feel that is going to give Houston fits?
I don't know if it's one guy specifically, because I think Duke can get the matchups they want. They're so sophisticated offensively, and the best half court offense in the country, that I think they can get whatever matchup they want. So I don't know if there's one guy, and they have a healthy respect for all of them. Saw Proctor last year in the tournament. They saw Sion James whenever he was at Tulane. Houston and Tulane were in the American Conference together. So we've seen Sion James half a dozen times live and in person. And then, Knipple can score from all over the place too. I think he's an underrated offensive player. Really curious about his pro career, because I think he's pretty special as well. I think he gets overlooked with that Duke team. So I would say it's more about the perimeter shooting. If they can limit Duke's perimeter shooting and maybe they have a bad shooting game from three, the game could look a lot different. So I don't know if it's one particular player as much as it is one specific aspect of that side of the floor, which would be shooting from the perimeter.
All right, just a couple questions left with you, Jeremy. And I want to, one of the things that I think a lot of people have identified about this game that could present a real problem for Houston is Duke's size. I mean, that's true of every team, this side of the NBA. Duke has to say Duke has NBA size doesn't even do it. Duke is actually bigger than a lot of NBA teams. We're not going to start a single guy who's under 6'6", and you've got LJ Cryer 6'1", and you're the biggest guy on your roster, unless I'm reading something wrong, is like 6'8". I mean, Kamen Malawach is going to be a half foot taller than anybody else out there. What does Houston do to combat Duke's size, both on the perimeter and in the post?
From a completely optimistic viewpoint, or at least, perspective, it's going to be to try to be more physical, try to beat them to the spot, keep them off the spot, box out, get great positioning. Because you're right, the length is the length, 6'6", 6'7", 6'7", 6'10", 7'2". That is unique. I'm not, like you said, there's not many teams in the country that can do that, or just any teams on this planet Earth that can do that. So where they lack the height, I think they're going to try to win the positioning, kind of widen the game out. So, try to keep the Duke rebounders away from the rim as best as they can. Try to win those little post positions, little games within the game. Where are you picking up a defender? Are you allowing them to seal off on the block, or are they sealing off 15 feet from the basket? So the little things like that, I think, are what Houston will have to do well to counterbalance what they lack in size. They're going to have to win positioning. They're going to have to win those post battles. They can't allow Duke to get where they want to be. Houston's going to have to get to where they want Duke to be. So I think that's critical. I think there was one play, I want to say it was in the Alabama game that Duke played. It might have been in the Arizona game. I can't remember. But Cooper Flag coming off the screen, running the baseline from the top of your screen to the bottom of your screen. He stops right there in the short corner. Right there in the short corner. Heads up play. Great IQ, gets the ball, lays it up, easy basket. You can't have that. He cannot be on that right block. You're going to have to dictate position on the floor. And Houston's a physical team, so they're capable of doing it. But I think that's one of the little games within the games that I'll be watching early.
All right, let's close with this. Give us your prediction. How do you see this game playing out? Who do you see coming out of this game? I mean, I think I know. I know who you're going to pick, but tell me how you see the game playing out.
No, I'm gonna go the Kirk Herbstreit route and say I think both teams are just gonna have a whole lot of fun, and it's gonna be a great time in San Antonio. Hopefully, there's
both
more.
Both teams played hard, huh?
Yeah, both teams play hard. I don't like to do the prediction game, so I apologize. I'm more of a reactionary guy. But there's critical elements of this game. Duke's half court offense is special. Houston's half court defense is special. So you have, they always say styles make fights. I'm very intrigued to see that Duke half court offense versus the Houston half court defense. And, how does Kelvin Sampson, who's a defensive genius, defend that Duke offense that is so good? And then I think Duke's extremely underrated on the defensive end too. And with Duke's size, what kind of shots is Houston getting? Are they getting the looks that they want to get? Are they getting clean shots off? So I think it's a fascinating matchup. I think it's strength against strength. I do think that these are the two best teams in the country, Duke and Houston. Not to say it's the national championship game, because Auburn's capable of, beating anybody. Auburn beat us earlier this year. Auburn could easily be the national champion. Same thing with Florida. Florida, they can shoot it as good as anybody. They can beat anybody in the country, especially in a tournament setting where it's a one-game series. Anybody can beat anybody. All four of these teams, if they were lifting the trophy on Monday night, they would be a worthy champion. There would be nothing fluky about it. So I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun in San Antonio. Short drive. I'm really hoping that the Houston Cougar fans turn out. I'm confident that they will, and maybe that fandom can lift Houston a little bit. Maybe that could be the difference that would get Houston by. But there's a lot of fascinating storylines, and I can't wait to watch it.
Jeremy, this has been a ton of fun, man. You are You're good to wade into enemy territory like this, and we appreciate all your comments. A really, really smart analysis. I'm not going to wish you luck.
I will say, look, very few people get to call a basketball game in college. Much fewer get to call a Final Four game. I believe this is your second time that you get to do this, so
Yeah.
enjoy the moment. Whatever happens, hopefully you get to have that moment for yourself and for your family.
Well, I appreciate you guys saying that. And yeah, it's second Final Four. You're right, but the first one was the COVID tournament, so that was a little different. So this one more of a real feel. So I feel like my experience was cheated a little bit in 2021. So this will be the first full experience of calling a Final Four. Really looking forward to it. Great being on with you guys too. A lot of respect for this Duke program. It's been a lot of fun watching them. I catch myself watching them a lot. Cooper Flagg's so good, really good player. So I have liked watching your team too. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We are all blessed to have these, hardworking and really talented guys to watch perform on Saturday night. And I agree with you. These are the two best teams in the country. I wish there was a way that they could both get a trophy.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
You got it. You have a good one.
Once again, we thank Jeremy Branham, the play-by-play guy for Houston radio, covering the Houston Cougars. Really, Donald, some really smart analysis there from him. I think it's good for us to get a sense of what the other camp is thinking about this game, because like I said, I mean, this is probably Houston's best team, and they're probably like, how the hell we run into, this Houston team would be number one and the pick to win it all in like 19 of the past 20 years.
I think you can say that about all four teams in the Final Four, right? This is a historic year for that. I also, just like we said, Jason, we've been able to see the Duke side. I've seen about 15, 20 games of Houston's this year. I've seen a lot of Houston basketball. He has seen 38 games this year, so he has a lot more, and he sees them up close in a way that we don't get to get. So it's good to have that perspective on.
Hey, one final note before we go, folks, and full acknowledgement that we are not going to go into a deep dive on this like we have in some past years. The McDonald's All-American game was played last night. Next week, after the national championship is over, Donald and I are going to, take a little step back, take a breath, and then we will start looking ahead. And we'll be talking about what happened in the McDonald's All-American game. There are other high school All-American games happening that Duke players will be playing in. But I wanted to really quickly just acknowledge that Cameron Boozer was the MVP of the East squad. I believe it was 16 points and 12 rebounds that he put up in the game. His brother Caden looked very, very good as well. I thought Nick Kamenia had some really nice moments. We'll get more into that next week, but the future continues to look bright for the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, those three look great. This is the short analysis you're getting. Those three guys look great in the game. Emily Skinner looked fantastic in the women's game.
Oh, yeah.
The future's did you see? She's a problem. But yes, we will explain all. We'll talk about all of it and maybe get a little bit further into it. Also gives me a chance, Jason, to rewatch it because there's been so much going on that I did watch it last night, but it's hard to really focus in on our players as opposed to just the game at large, which, as you know, it's an all-star game. I mean, so very few you can take away from all-star game other than the Duke UNC rivalry remains strong, and it will remain strong next year too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, with that, we're wrapping it up here in the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. The content will continue to come your way. Donald and I are going to do our deep dive on the Houston Cougars, all the analytics, all their results, all the players, all the matchups, you name it, we're going to have it. A big old jumbo-sized episode all about Houston coming your way in the next 24 hours. Until then, he's Donald, I'm Jason, and we are still on our way with the Duke Band to San Antonio.